Hey, what's up everybody? My name is John Whipple. I'm with 60th Parallel Adventures, and today we are talking about what's in my pack. %90 of the hunting that I do is DIY mountain hunting. So we're backpacking in for an extended period of time, usually 5 to 10 to 15 days. And my loadout for that is pretty much the same, whether it's for sheep hunting, goat hunting, Sitka black-tailed deer hunting, caribou hunting, black or brown bear hunting. Small tweaks depending on the species, depending on the time of year and the terrain, but by and large, this pack is what I carry on most of my hunts. So with that being said, let's get to it. All right. Here's the pack. Barney's Sport Chalet Frontier Gear of Alaska Pinnacle Pack. This is my go-to if I'm doing extended backpacking trips. I have other internal and hybrid packs that I really like and that I use for certain types of things. But if I'm going for long-term hunting trip, backpacking, where I know I'm gonna be carrying my gear plus meat for long ways, this is my go-to pack. I know it's gonna hold up. I know it's gonna handle the weight. As Kevin over at Barney's Sport Chalet always says, yeah, this pack weighs 8 pounds compared to a 5 or 6 pound internal frame pack. But when you're carrying 150 pounds, can you tell the difference between 150 and 145? Probably not. But you will be able to tell the difference in how stable that load is and how comfortable that load is, right? And that's where this bad boy comes in. The next thing that I like to point out is that when I set my pack up, I want to be able to know where everything is, which means picking a spot for it and sticking with that spot, being consistent, everything having a place, putting it back when you're done with it. And so you know right where it is and it doesn't get lost. With that being said, we're going to start going through this bag a little bit. Show you guys here. It's got several outside pockets on here. This is my spotting scope pocket, and if I am traveling alone, I'm going to be carrying the spotting scope. If I am traveling with my hunting partner, he's typically going to be carrying the spotting scope, and I'm going to be running more camera gear because I typically bring some camera gear to do photo and video on the trip, and so that will take the place of this. But this is not a photo and video, so we're going to focus on the hunting gear. Spotting scope, Vortex razor. And then on this side, since this is the left side when I'm carrying it, I have my trekking poles. These are super important when you're carrying heavy loads going up and downhill. They are going to save your legs. They're going to keep you from rolling ankles, keep you from falling over on the way down, especially with a heavy pack. These have saved me many times. Oh yeah, river crossings, so many things. These ones are aluminum. You can also go carbon fiber. The only thing is, with carbon fiber, they are a little more prone to snapping, whereas metal's gonna bend. And I don't like the idea of snapping a pole and then impaling myself on it with a heavy load. And I'm kind of a bigger guy. If I'm lucky, I'm weighing like 215, 220 pounds going into the field before clothes and gear. So I've broken more than one thing in the field, right? Anyway, so I go with the aluminum. These ones are MSR. They're it's about time for them to get replaced. They're pretty worn out. I do like either the lever locks or these kind of locks, whatever that's called. I don't so much like the twist lock ones. They don't seem to hold as well and they're not as fast to deploy. This little pocket down here usually holds my snacks for the day. Typically the way we pack our food, a special oatmeal mix with protein powder, brown sugar, seasoning, some fruit and quick cut oats. That's breakfast, and that holds us pretty far. Then we have some protein bars and other things for the middle of the day, and then Heather's Choice meal for dinner. And maybe you'll see a picture of that right here. That typically weighs 20 ounces, sometimes a couple ounces more if we add some more snacks to it. All right, over on this side, we've got more pockets. This one here has my toilet paper, just kind of gold right now, and wet wipes. I know some guys don't bring these into the field. I think they're super important. Hopefully, now that we've been through COVID, you too will wash your hands when you go hunting. So, always bring those. How many of these I bring will depend on how long the hunt is. If it's a 10, 12, or 15-day hunt, probably gonna bring several of these, right? If it's just a few days, this is fine. The nice thing about toilet paper is, if worst case scenario, you can burn it or bury it if your pack's so heavy that you don't want to carry the extra toilet paper. This next middle pouch has kind of directly hunting related stuff. It's my little plastic waterproof case that has my hunting license and tags, a little bit extra money, and an extra set of earplugs. If I am going ultralight, I do get rid of this and I put just the essential tags and licenses and stuff in a Ziploc bag. But if every ounce doesn't quite count, then this is pretty nice. This is simply just a bullet pouch. How much ammo I take also depends on what animal I'm hunting and whether we're shooting multiple animals. If you're going on a sheep hunt, probably don't need a whole ton of ammo. If you're going on a Sitka blacktail hunt and you're planning on shooting 3 to 5 deer on your trip, then maybe you need a little more. If you're going brown bear hunting, maybe you want to bring a little more. So just kind of depends on what you're doing. Up here, I've got my cup. This is kind of cool. This is a collapsible cup. I used to carry a little GSI ultralight plastic cup, and it was like an ounce, maybe less than an ounce. This is slightly heavier than that, but it's so easy, so convenient to have a flat little cup that it's worth it. Titanium spoon, the long one. Medical. I carry 2 different types of medical gear, and this is my trauma pack that I keep on the outside, and I've only recently started carrying this in the last 2 years. Most guys in Alaska are pretty light on first aid, I feel like. General philosophy is don't get hurt and bring some duct tape, you'll be fine. But that's not always actually true, and so I've started to take trauma care a little more seriously. I do carry a tourniquet, I do carry some quick clot, and I also carry some chest seals. I'm still working on whether I like this little system, this particular bag. The cloth bag here weighs, you know, almost as much as some of this kit. I'm gonna keep playing with this. I'm not sure that I'm gonna keep carrying that, but I want it to be protected. I don't want it to get degraded by, you know, rucking around and throwing my pack around and getting stuff wet. And I need it to be quick and accessible. All right. For the top of the pack is my GPS. Usually with this GPS, I am actually bringing my Garmin 660, I think it's called. It's the texting device, right? But Casey, my hunting partner, is bear hunting right now and he's using it. So this is my old school GPS. And when I am carrying that, I usually keep it up here or in my pocket if I'm using it a lot. Same thing with this. This is my rangefinder. This particular one's the Vortex Ranger 1000, a little bit of an older model, but does the trick. And again, if I'm using this a lot, I will clip this onto my chest rig, or I will put it in my pocket, but typically it just stays in this little pouch, tucked into the top here. If I'm trying to go ultralight, I jettison the pouch. All right, rain gear. Rain gear always needs to be on top of your pack. Rain comes on quickly, don't want to get wet. This is the Gore-Tex Dew Point, I think it's called. It's their ultralight Gore-Tex rain suit, pant, and jacket. The nice thing is light. The bad thing is Gore-Tex, like any Gore-Tex or any synthetic, is going to eventually soak through. And so I just as often will take my Helly Hansen Improtect rain gear. And it kind of just depends. If I think it's going to be less rainy or I'm not going out as long or being ultralight is super important, I go with these guys. if I know I'm gonna be busting brush, I'm gonna be out there a long time, it's gonna see harder use, more rain. Helly Hansen's coming out. All right, gloves. These are the Sika mountain gear gloves, and I really like these gloves. They're comfortable. They're pretty dexterous. Like once you've got them on, you can still, you know, work a gun and do chores, that kind of thing. It's fine. But I'll be honest, I almost never wear these on early or mid-season hunt. It's just too warm out. But I can't quite bring myself to leave them behind. It seems irresponsible. And then just rain fly, right? This is the one that comes with the Barney's pack. Cool, all right. Next, I'll move some of this gear out of the way. We've got this little pouch here, which normally is zipped up. And in here, this is my other first aid and survival kit. We'll maybe do a top down of this here in a little bit and go over that in more detail. And then a couple of other little basic things. Part of the first aid is this wrap, paracord. Never know when you're gonna need paracord. A little bivvy. This is not just a space blanket, but a space bivvy. Always have one of those. Yeah, that's all there. All right. Okay, medical and survival gear. This is like the lightest actual dry bag that I could find that was legitimately waterproof. And I guess before we get into that, like I said, part of my medical kit, ace bandage, then trauma kit, bare bones, but still can handle severe injuries, at least for the moment. Paracord, any number of uses, bivy sack. So that aside, now let's get into this guy. Here we have just a few basic medications. This is just ibuprofen and allergy meds. That's all that is. No point in bringing a bottle. Bottle's heavier than the meds. Put it in a Ziploc bag. Okay, this little Ziploc bag is just kind of repair and survival kit stuff. This is just flagging and a few different kinds of tape and some little patches. Leuco tape, best kind of tape in the world. If you want to tape your feet up, avoid blisters, Leuco tape. Gorilla tape or duct tape, many uses for that, and then some regular sports tape. What I've done with all of these is just taken a toilet paper roll and cut it in thirds or in half and wrapped tape around it. So it gives it a little bit of form and keeps it from sticking together, but it's lightweight and it's easy. So that's that. All right. Next, we have shoelaces. These ones are for like fireman's boots. They are heavy duty and waxed and really long. And so these fit in any of the different types of boots that I wear in the field and are really tough and kind of waterproof. And nothing sucks more than breaking a shoelace and then not being able to replace it. Zip ties, little ones, just never know when those are gonna come in handy. And just a little bit of picture wire. This could be used to repair a broken pack or a rifle sling or to use as a snare for small game. Any number of uses for a little bit of wire. Don't carry much of it, don't wanna go overboard. But yeah, just a little something. Okay, what else do we have in here? Oh yeah, fire. So here, I'm not even gonna open this up. You can see it, right? This is a lighter with more duct tape wrapped around it. It's one of the little tiny lighters. Book of matches, trioxane tablet wrapped up in tape to protect it from breaking open, and a little tea candle. Pro tip, when you're starting your fire, you can light the tea candle first and then not waste a bunch of matches if you're using matches. So, plus it's obviously just a little light source or a warmth source if you're doing the classic, put the emergency blanket over you, put the candle underneath you, and trap a little bit of heat. Okay, next, super glue. It's just a tiny little thing of super glue. I've got it in a Ziploc bag and I taped the lid on so that it doesn't come off because I've had these leak before. But super glue is great for any number of things, fixing broken gear, cuts, stuff like that. This is just a pair of surgical gloves. And it looks like a random alcohol wipe. Okay, here we go. This is kind of my repair kit and tool kit. A little bit of thread. This is several different types of sewing needles for sewing up clothing or people. This is a Allen wrench for my rifle scope, and then a little Swiss Army knife, just the smallest one. Mainly I want the tweezers and the scissors in this thing, but it's also got, you know, a little fingernail file and a little knife blade. I've used that a lot in the field. It's worth bringing. Okay, a few more zip ties. This is a little bit of eye drops in case someone gets something in their eye. It's not much, but it's something. A little saline solution. Iodine. I had to go back and forth about whether to bring this with, because it's kind of a big bottle, it's kind of heavy, you're carrying around liquid. It's a couple ounces here, but if someone does get significantly injured, it is nice to know you have something that is gonna flush that cut out. You know, sure, flush it with good clean water first if you can, and then finish off with this before you bandage up. In addition to my bivy bag, the emergency bivy sack, I also have an emergency actual blanket. I use that for covering meat more than I end up using it to cover myself, but it's good to have either way. And this is a tiny little compass. And then this is just my little boo-boo kit. So in here we have a bunch of, you know, little Band-Aids. We've got some alcohol pads, glacier gel if you get blisters, and some little antibiotic syrettes there, and then several different types of moleskin and several different types of Band-Aids. And then finally, Gear Aid makes this really awesome clear tape that's made for fixing rain jackets and tents and sleeping bags and stuff like that. And I don't carry a whole roll of it on a sheep hunt, but I carry a little square to fix small tears. If I have a big tear, I guess I'll use the duct tape. All right, that's it for the first aid kit. Next, I want to go into the main compartment of the pack here. Stuff that I don't need to get to quite as immediately. First off, water bladders. I used to carry water bottles, but it's been a lot of years since I have. And I've gone through a lot of different camelback style bladders. And the two that I like the most these days are these ones, the platypus bladders, and also the MSR bladders. These ones I like because the caps are interchangeable. The MSR bladders are cool because it's a tougher material. But what I like about these is that they are super lightweight. You get different sizes, 1, 2, 3 liters. And this hose can be unscrewed and put onto this one. So if you actually had one of these bags puncture, which I've never had happen in the field ever, not once. But if one of them started to leak, which I'm sure could happen, then if you carry 2 or 3 of them, you can just switch this nozzle around. And these are, like 3 of these is lighter than 1 Nalgene bottle easily, right? So, awesome. Okay, so let's lay that out. Next, since we just talked about water, let's talk about food. I don't have any food in here, but this is where I do put my food, is one of these dry bags, and I use for my food a little heavier duty dry bag. This is like a legit rubber dry bag. And the reason I use that is because, let's see if you can see that. The reason I use that is because you get a little bit better scent containment, hopefully, I'd like to think anyway, and it's more likely to actually stay waterproof, and it's gonna fend off or at least slow down little creatures. Sometimes you'll have squirrels and birds and stuff like that trying to get at stuff, and they'll chew holes through this still, but it slows them down a little bit. If I am going for like 5 days or less, I can fit everything in here. If I'm going for more than that, I'll take 2 or 3 of these bags, or I've got a couple bigger versions where I can stuff them a little fuller. But I don't like putting all my food in one bag. I like to be able to split it up, because then, it's the old adage, right? Not all your eggs in one basket. If your food gets damaged somehow, maybe some of it will still be good if you have it in a different bag. Also, sometimes we'll establish a base camp and then spike out from there for several days. And so it's nice to be able to leave some food at base camp and take some food on your spike out. I think I said before, our food loadout typically weighs in at 20 ounces, sometimes 25 at the most. All right, next, stove. Now, I have a few different options for stoves, and that is gonna depend on what type of hunt I'm going on, but 90% of the time I'm taking this stove. Everybody calls them jet boils now because they're the first one, but this one's actually an MSR, and I like the MSR better. It's a little more efficient, I have found, in burning fuel. And these are great if you've never used one, which I'm sure you have. But it's got the little stand in here. I throw a little lighter in here. Here's the actual burner. And what makes it so efficient is this nice wind guard and heat guard that goes around it. And then here's the little can of fuel that screws onto. Pot, boom. These are great. MSR is the best one in my opinion so far that I've used, and I've used quite a few. But there are a couple of others that I do like. All right, let's put that away. Play with that later. And that is, Camp Chef makes one called the Striker that's got a bigger pot that I have. And what's really cool about that one is it also has an adapter that goes onto it that will let you use propane tanks, which is cheaper and often more readily available. So if you're going to small towns or villages where you might not be able to get butane, but you think you can get those little 2-pound propane tanks, sweet, Striker might be the way to go. If you're not as much worried about weight, but are still bringing a backpack stove and you want cheaper fuel, Camp Chef Striker might be a good way to go. And then finally, I also have a little Primus stove. This one is really light. It's the lightest of all the three, but it's the least efficient by quite a bit. And so it's usually either a backup stove or the stove I bring if I'm only going out for a night or two. The other disadvantage is the pot doesn't lock into the stove, so it's easier to spill. So for your reference, here's the Camp Chef Striker. Here's the Primus one. And I'll show you this really quick. One thing I do like about this, tinfoil makes a good lightweight lid, by the way. This is the actual stove. That's all this is. And so sometimes if I am going on a more extended trip, I will bring just this part as a backup. So my main stove will be something like this, but I'll also bring this in case the main stove goes down. Almost all of our food is based on boiling water, so to be able to do that is kind of a big deal. Backup stove, one is none, two is one kind of thing. All right. Next, kill kit. Kill kit. In here is kind of when after something gets dead, I grab this bag. This has just about everything I need to process the animal minus the game bags. So in here is my knife, and this has been my go-to for many years. I got a lot of knives, and some of them are very unreasonably expensive, right? $300, $400, $500 knives. This $15 knife is the one that I bring on pretty much all my hunts. It's called the Cold Steel Fin Bear, and it's about a 4.5-inch blade and just a really nice, simple profile. The handle's fairly easy to clean. The blade sharpens up really easily. It comes in this lightweight little sheath. It's a really great little package. And I am kind of a traditionalist. I like to have an actual knife with me, even though we've kind of gone down the road of using scalpel knives, which are really great for a lot of tools. I still like having a real knife with me. And then Casey typically carries a Havalon or a Taito knife, and we'll use that for some of the finer detail stuff. Casey's my hunting partner, for those of you who don't know, and we pretty much do all our hunting trips together. And that's something I should bring up. All this gear, of course, if you are traveling solo, you kind of have to carry it all, right? But if you're going with two people, That's usually the sweet spot for splitting up gear. Once you get more than 2 people, it can get tough on a sheep hunt, but 2 people is really great because then all of a sudden you only need 1 camp stove, you only need 1 tent, you only need 1 spotting scope. Some guys even only bring 1 rifle, and that starts to really slim down your pack, right? When you can split that load. All right, back to the kill kit. Next, surgical gloves or rubber gloves. I will typically bring at least 2 pair of these, and I kind of base that on how many animals I anticipate skinning on the trip. And I want to bring at least 1 pair of gloves per animal, plus at least 1 extra set. Next, I usually just have an empty Ziploc bag because usually you find a bullet when you're skinning stuff. If you're lucky, anyway, you do, and it's fun to be able to keep that. Next, if I'm doing lighter game like sheep or sick of black-tailed deer, I will bring this little saw. This one's made by Outdoor Edge, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a little rusty right now, but it gets the job done. It's lightweight, it's small, and if you still want to skull cap a deer or saw the ribs, this does the trick. This is my DMT medium coarse sharpening stone, a little diamond sharpening stone that I use for touching up my knives. And I always bring 3 garbage bags per animal that I'm gonna kill, typically. So 1 is a heavy duty, extra large garbage bag. We're talking preferably 6 mil, but at least 3 mil. And this is gonna be to line the inside of my backpack, and then inside of this is gonna go game bags of meat. And hopefully this is gonna hold up and not tear and keep my backpack from getting all bloody. The next one is a more traditional, regular 33-gallon lightweight black trash bag. And this is what I put all my personal gear inside of after I kill an animal, and in packing it back, whatever else is in my pack, my clothing, my first aid kits, my water, whatever, goes into this so that it doesn't get all bloody from the meat that's riding around. And then this goes in on top, that all goes on top of the meat. This bag is like your traditional kitchen 13-gallon trash bag, and I carry 1 of these per animal that I anticipate on killing or packing out. And this is specifically for the skull, because you're typically wrapping the skull up on the outside of your pack, and it's nice to have a separate plastic bag to wrap that up in so that it's not getting blood everywhere. So 3 bags. And then finally, always carry a little bit of marking tape, not too much, no reason to go crazy with it, but it's nice to be able to mark a kill site or the beginning of a trail. This is certainly not enough to mark a whole trail, but you can mark off important points. And then lastly, sewing tape. And this is great if you're actually sheep hunting, you want, or moose or caribou hunting. A whole one of these is great. If you're doing like say a goat hunt, I've got one of these that I just cut, like 15 inches off of it, and just bring it for measuring the horns. And there's no sense in bringing a whole roll. But if you're want to measure a bear or a moose, something bigger, it's nice to have one of these. It's a lightweight way to do it. That's it. So that's my kill kit. Next, let's get this stuff out of the way. Water filter. There are a bunch of different kinds of water filters out there, and I've tried a lot of them. This is my favorite, Katadyn Hiker Pro. This is definitely my go-to. It's got kind of a 2-hose system, keep the clean one and the dirty one separate, and it's simply a pump, right? So one end clips in here. This goes into your water source. This other hose goes into the top and then feeds into your water bottle, and then away you go. Woo, there that goes. All right, I always try to bring at least 2, if not 3 ways of purifying water in the field. And so obviously with a stove, you can boil water. And then I also typically will carry either Aquamira drops with me or tablets with me. And that way, if we're spiking out for a day or 2 in an area that has good, clean mountain streams that aren't super silty or super gross from fish or beavers or something like that, then maybe we'll just take those little tablets with us or the Aquamira drops and use those to pack ultralight for a couple of days and leave the pump back in base camp. Also, if you do end up breaking your pump, or we have had a couple of trips where an older filter that had been on several trips already got really clogged up because we went to an area that had really heavy silt in the water that we were pumping out of, and that silt will clog these filters faster than normal. And so having more than one way is always a good idea. All right. Next, I carry 2 dry bags in my pack. This one and this one. These are ultralight dry bags. The big one, which is actually a proper dry bag, even though it's lightweight, it's legitimately waterproof, carries my extra clothing. Now, we haven't talked about clothing at all yet, and we'll do that at the end. We'll go over what I actually wear in the field, and also we'll touch on hardware a little more, binoculars, firearm. But first of all, we're doing what's in the pack, and for clothing, I'm probably relatively minimalist. There's some guys who are more so, but I always bring a puffy jacket as my insulating layer. This is the Sitka Kelvin jacket, a couple of years older model now, but it's been on a lot of trips, does the trick, keeps me pretty warm. And I prefer synthetic materials for like Primaloft or something like that, especially for early season hunts, because the chance of it getting wet are pretty high, and it's not gonna just be completely worthless like down would be if it gets wet. So for the early season stuff, I stick with the Primaloft Insulate, some kind of synthetic insulation. For later season where it's below freezing and getting wet is not as big a deal, then down all the way, because it's just so much lighter, so much fluffier, pound for pound, so much warmer. Then I have the Sitka Kelvin pant, go with it as well. And early on, I didn't carry puffy pants. I would bring long johns, but I overheat really quickly, and there's no way I can wear long johns when I'm actually moving around until it's full on wintertime. So it just wasn't a realistic solution. I would be cold when I'd sit still sometimes, and I would be hot when I was hiking around. If I'd be cold without the long johns, hot with them. And so then I discovered puffy pants, maybe like 8 years ago, and it changed my life, and I've been carrying them ever since. They are easy to throw on over the top of whatever you're wearing, and they can fit under your rain gear. You can wear them in your sleeping bag, and so you can get away with carrying a much lighter sleeping bag if you want to, or extend the range of your sleeping bag. And if you got a nice ram that you want to put to bed that night, and you don't want to hike back to your tent because you might not get another chance at this ram, and you want to stay the night, just always carry your puffy pants and your puffy jacket with you. Put those on, throw your rain gear over the top of that, and it's kind of like a sleeping bag. You're gonna make it through the night. All right. There have been times when I go out on the opener August 10th and I'm tempted to leave those pants behind because it's pretty moderate out. But man, it's hard to leave them behind. It's nice to know they're there. Speaking of sleeping bags, this is my sleeping bag, and I always buy these Sea to Summit stuff sacks with the compression straps. These are legitimately waterproof while still being really lightweight. And so I replace whatever stuff sack the sleeping bag comes with this. The sleeping bag in here is a down Western Mountain Engineering. I think it's a 0 degree. Yeah, it's a 0 degree bag. And I use it for just about, not 0 degree, 20 degree. It's a 20 degree bag. And I use it for pretty much everything up until full on winter hits, from August all the way through October, November, including the winter hunts in Kodiak, but here in Palmer and farther north, obviously you want to go to a warmer bag once winter hits. This bag is a great bag, super high quality, lightweight, and even at its long, I've got the long version. It's coming in, I have to look it up for you guys. I'll post it right here. All right. Next, Thermarest Neo Air, I think it's called, sleeping pad. I have splurged a little bit on this. I used to go super lightweight with my sleeping pad. I bought like the closed cell foam mattress, you know, or foam pad from like Walmart or wherever, and then cut it off at the knees so it only went from like my shoulders to my knees. And it was light, sure, but it was also not comfortable and not warm. These get you up off the ground and you sleep so much better with a sleeping pad like this. It is worth it. To get the lightweight ones, you do have to spend a little more money, at least if you're getting brand name like Thermarest. If you don't want to drop the like 200 bucks or whatever that these are going to run, then I would probably push you towards Climb with a K, Climb. It's usually available. You can find those on sale for like 40, 50, 60 bucks if you shop around. All right, sleeping pad. Next, my pillow. Again, I never used to carry a pillow until maybe like 5 years ago. I discovered these Sea to Summit Aero pillows, and they only weigh like 3 ounces, which, hey, I know ounces add up, but your night's sleep is worth a lot, and these pillows are amazing. Some pillows are uncomfortable, some camp pillows are heavy. This is got like a nice soft exterior, and it's not oversized. I've got kind of the medium sized, maybe even the small one. It's probably the small one. I'll show you guys here. So this is what it looks like. And yeah, you just blow that up and you'll be one happy camper. That's well worth the wait. I used to just stuff clothes inside of my sleeping bag, stuff sack, and then put a shirt or jacket over it to I like a pillowcase. And I mean, that works. It's lighter weight, but do the pillow thing. It's worth it. All right, game bags. This is actually set for a moose, which obviously on a sheep hunt, I wouldn't bring this but huge thing of game bags. But I do like the Caribou Gear brand of game bags. I've started using their packs quite a bit. I used to think that I could do better by stripping the system down, taking it out of their packaging and stuff like that. And I've learned that honestly, the way they do it is perfect, and it's the way to go. Leave it as it is, bring it in the field. The only thing I might suggest is that you fill out the little tags. They put little tags for each bag. Fill those out ahead of time, because you're not gonna wanna do it in the field, and you probably will forget a pen anyways. And it gets super annoying when everybody's got the same kind of game bags and you're trying to figure out which are yours at the end when they're, their transporters packing your meat out. It's nice to have your name on there. Plus it also counts as your transfer possession card when if you're using a transporter. All right, so game bags. I think that's about it from the main compartment. Yeah, that's it. So obviously a tent is missing. Right now, all of my tents are over at my hunting partner Casey's house, but we use Hilleberg tents, and we've got several that we use based on how light we're trying to go, what time of year it is, and how many people are going. But I will put up a couple of pictures here so you guys can see some of the different options we have. If we're going solo, then I think the Acto, a little 1-man 4-season tent. We've also got a 2-man 3-season tent that's ultralight that Hilleberg makes. And then we've got a couple of other heavier duty, larger ones. And typically though, we're going with a lightweight 3-season 2-man Hilleberg tent. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about how I dress when I'm going out in the field. Much better. All right, so obviously I wear Sitka gear. There is a lot of other good brands out there nowadays. I think Sitka gear had the lead for quite a while, but there's other brands that are catching up and doing a pretty good job. So by no means feel like you gotta go out and buy Sitka gear, but that's what I've got, and so that's what I'm gonna show you today. For starters, I've got the Timberline pant, which is my all-time favorite hunting pant, and it's got just excellent fit, water resistant material, relatively tough, reinforced knees, articulated knees and gusseted crotch, really good fitment throughout. They've thought about the small things like rubber coated snaps so that they are quiet, quality zippers, this suspenders, which are amazing when you're carrying a pack because inevitably the hip belt will push down on your pants, but these suspenders go ahead and control that. Love all the pockets, if I haven't said that already. And it's got a reinforced butt as well, so it's a little easier to sit down on wet ground. So, Sitka Timberline pant, love it. Next, for base layers, I wear merino wool. I'll just, all the way, it's better in every way. It wicks moisture really well. It's antimicrobial, so it doesn't stink after several days of wear. It's warm even when it's wet. It will dry out relatively quick, not quite as quick as synthetics, but relatively quick. It wears pretty well, it's pretty tough, it's comfortable. It's the way to go. So typically, I will start out with this nice minus 33 merino wool shirt. I like the zip tees because it gives me a little more ventilation. Then next up, I go to this Sitka long sleeve merino wool shirt, the lightest one that they have, the thinnest merino wool. And then over that, I will put this Sitka hoodie, and then I think it's their heavyweight hoodie nowadays they call it, and the Sitka ball cap. And I like these hats because I sweat a lot in the field, and obviously you get rained out a lot, and these are synthetic, so they hold up to that well. They dry really easily, they're quiet, they're lightweight. You can just throw them in the washing machine when you get home, and they come out all fresh and clean, looking like new. So I love these hats. Next, in my pockets, I have these garments right here near me all the time. This is the merino wool beanie, best hat in the world. It actually covers your ears and it's super lightweight, and this goes in my right side cargo pocket. In my right side cargo pocket, along with the hat, I will also put this buff. This is a merino wool buff that has a million uses. It can be used as an extra hat or hood. It can be used obviously as a neck gaiter, scarf situation. Love this thing. Crazy added warmth for weight. Bandana, again, kind of a million uses. Dry things out, use it as a sieve to keep silt out of your water bottle. You can obviously use it as a scarf, a hat, a COVID-19 mask, whatever suits your fancy. The old Timberline pants used to have an integral belt, and I loved it, but they got rid of it, sad face. So oftentimes now I will use this 511 tactical web belt, pretty classic belt. And this is also good if I am carrying a pistol in the field for whatever reason, then I've got a belt that'll support that. So, not exactly a lightweight belt, but it is a sturdy belt. I have not found a good lightweight belt that I like, because the belts that just have tension on them always seem to creep and loosen up. I've got to have a little bit of Velcro or notches, something that actually holds the belt in place, it seems like. All right, after that, I will bring a little bit of extra clothing, which brings us to the other dry bag that I pulled out of my backpack earlier. And so for socks and underwear, I still go merino wool, either Sitka minus 33, there's Mons Royale, merino wool. There's a bunch of different brands that make good ones. These are the Sitka brand ones, which are probably the best ones, I would say. They're kind of expensive, but they are worth it. And then for socks, I use Darn Tough exclusively. And I have both the merino wool and the synthetic. I found that I like the synthetic better. If I wear the merino wool ones, I need to wear a Polypro liner sock underneath it to avoid blistering. Whereas with these, I do not. So it kind of depends on which boot combination I'm wearing. And I guess now's a great time to talk about boots. And I'll throw up a picture for you here. I basically use 2 different boots for mountaineering hunting. One is the Koflak Degra. That's kind of my go-to mountain boot. It's an all plastic boot that has a lot of advantages. That's a whole nother video, but I like it a lot. And then the Loa Tibet is my other go-to, and I'll throw up a picture of that one as well. That's an all leather kind of hunting dedicated mountaineering boot. And when I'm wearing the leather boots, I will often wear the wool sock with a liner, or the synthetic with a liner, because they fit a little loose, and so I can squeeze that liner sock in. With my Koflaks, I don't have any room for the liner, so I go with the synthetic. For a 10-day hunt, I bring 3 pairs of socks and 3 pairs of underwear. Some guys will go with less than that, but I like having a couple extras. If I'm going for a shorter period of time, I'll bring less. If I'm going for a longer period of time, I probably won't bring more. I'll probably just wash them if I get a chance, or live with it. This extra dry bag, in addition to carrying my extra socks, also serves as my tent organizer. So all my extra gear that doesn't stay in my pack for hunting during the day that I leave behind in the tent typically goes in this dry bag and kind of keeps it all together and organized, and without getting strewn all over the place, which has served more than one purpose. There was one time where our tent got picked up and thrown down the mountain by a gale force wind while we were out hunting, and I was thankful that all my gear was contained in one little dry bag, because it was pouring rain that day, and while our tent was shredded, my gear was still all in one spot, so that worked out pretty good. All right, next we're gonna go over hardware. Okay, so this is the hardware that I've got in the field. These things are what is in my pocket. I got a cell phone, which I use for any number of things. I got hunting regulations, books, and obviously music, podcasts, apps for editing pictures, apps for controlling my cameras, all kinds of cool stuff. Definitely want the iPhone. Then a little pocket knife. I just tried to find the lightest, smallest pocket knife I could, and this is a little Schrade pocket knife. It does the trick. It skinned a lot of animals with that. It's nice to have something in your pocket. This is just a lens pen for cleaning optics. Some earplugs, which I often don't get to use, but every once in a while I have a chance to put them in before the action goes down, and it's nice. And then a quarter for making all my important decisions and tightening my tripod equipment. Next, binoculars. Optics could be a whole nother video, but let me suffice to say that typically my go-to is a 10x42, and these are the Vortex razors. I really like them. And I can't stand most chest rigs. I get too hot too quickly. It's too much gear, it's too many straps combined with my backpack. So usually I run just some very simple chest harness like this that's really lightweight. Then finally, the gun. Here is a Kimber Mountain Ascent in 308, topped with a Razor 3-15 Vortex scope. And I've been super happy. This is my go-to mountain setup for lightweight hunting. This rifle, as you look at it with ammo, comes in at 6 pounds. Got 6 rounds on the buttstock here. And obviously a little extra electrical tape here. And then typically this muzzle is taped. You can see some of the remnants there. And then just a really lightweight sling, the lightest sling that I could find that was still solid and had a little bit of traction on the underside here, so it didn't slip around. So that's it, guys. I guess there are a couple of things. If you'll give me a second, I'll go grab them. If there's an option to have just a little bit more weight, I might bring one of these things. If I'm hunting bigger animals that require a bigger saw, I'm gonna bring this Kershaw. I love this thing. This has cut up a lot of animals, moose, caribou, you name it. This little saw, super lightweight, but it'll still do the trick. Next, a tarp shelter. These are pretty handy for a million things you can imagine. If it's raining and you want a glass on a hilltop, you can set this up. If you want a little cook shelter, you can set up something. If you want to cover up your meat, make a meat stash, then that's good too. This one's made by Base Camp, and it's super small and super light, 5x7 tarp, And so this is kind of my go-to when I'm packing light, but I still want to actually bring a tarp. I also have a couple of these Sitka shelters, and this is a much heavier but much more robust and more waterproof option that if I have a base camp and I'm not quite as worried about weight, this is a great option. All right, guys, I think that's it. Hopefully that helped you out a little bit. My gear is kind of fluid. I'm always trying to figure out how to test things out, how to tweak it, how to make it better, what to get rid of, what to add. I bet you guys have a lot of good ideas. There's probably a lot of things that you do that I do differently, and shoot me a message. I'd love to see your gear list too. But I hope this helped. Hope it gave you a couple of ideas, and have a great hunting season. Stay safe out there.